Hey, what is going on guys, Nishant here with CG4 and welcome to another Blender tutorial. Today I'm here with this 3D modeling session of a stylized medieval house. Recently I've been working on a stylized medieval art project and getting the stylized look out of a house is one hell of a deal. So in this tutorial I'm covering up all those stages I went throughout the entire process with explanations. The entire length of the actual tutorial was pretty much high, about 6 to 7 hours straight. So I cut it down short in a time lapse while explaining all the necessary details you need to know. I really hope you guys learned something from this tutorial and get some value out of it for your own stylized art. So that's enough with the talking and let's get started.
So we are starting to create a basic layout of blocks to get the initial shape of the house. Simply use real life dimensions of any medieval house, around 15 feet to 20 feet for front section and the same for tall section but with double floor dimensions. Also added a circular section as third section of the house. Diameter around 14 to 15 feet, scale from center and bevel for smooth topological flow in the center. Also set the camera angle for perspective and composition where you're gonna set the house for creating an artwork. Now let's start building up the house from basic layout by adding principal rafters, posts and tie beams. Add couple of loop cuts to maintain the look of timber more organic. While adding new loops in these rafters and posts, make sure you make entire topological flow uneven in the size. Lot of variation in these wooden logs not only help to make it feel more realistic, but helps to achieve more stylized look from entire wood part of the house. Now let's create the Padstones, which also looks pretty elegant with the stylized tone of the scene and also provides an aesthetic value to the house stability. Adding couple of box references for windows for now, so that we can create other timber parts first and work on windows a bit later in this project. So now first we're gonna work on the Kingposts and Queenposts right in the center of front wall. To bend the Queenpost, add a loop cut, then rotate upper edge towards outside and bevel the loop cut, and there we go with smoothly bent Queenposts. Make sure you also add these grids right above the sill or the bottom plate of the house. Adding these parts not only brings out the look of the house more closer to real one, but also helps to drive out the details of timber framing. In the end, which just adds a lot of variety and interest in the scene. But also make sure what kind of stylized look you are looking for. Adding these parts in a house structure directly depends on the look of the house you are literally looking for. So how you gonna add them purposely in-house with respect to entire scene composition? Develop the sense of smooth aesthetic value of art that is completely up to you as an artist. Also adding strut sized timber blocks in between sill and grit. However, adding these parts can be total experimental. There are a lot of other styles of timber framing you can also experiment with, which can also help you to develop more suitable design skills for your stylized house. Also make sure when you are creating these new timber parts, you keep adjusting the unevenness of loop cuts randomly to achieve more realistic appeal for your stylized house. Now finally the time to create windows with frames. Adding these frames on windows not only looks much more appealing, but also adds a lot more traditional touch and feeling in the object. Frame should be in such a manner that it inherits almost same tiling style of the roof. When it comes to adding these kind of stylized windows or any part in the house, there are literally no special techniques or mantra, but just few guidelines. You gotta watch out for making stuff too much rushed, simple or in between, but also there are lots of hows and why. The reasoning, aesthetics, compatibility to composition. It's kinda balanced, just like a person standing on a toe on a tipping edge of the mountain, adjusting his body with respect to the flow of wind and gravity. You simply learn it by simply doing it. Few things you can only learn by simply doing them. As an artist, I also found myself confused in between these things a couple of years ago. But as I kept practicing, things started to make sense automatically. Your mind needs to develop as an artist, and practice helps you to get through that. There is simply no other way around. Learn the fundamentals, then break them and use them for your own purpose. That's where you have to become more master. And that's what you're gonna learn in the upcoming years as an artist. Now, I'm only going to add windows on center part of the house, but not the window frames. It might look good, it might not, but I have chose to keep it simple due to thousands of reasons I have in mind with regards to feelings, emotions, reasoning behind creating this specific art, balancing ratio, art guidelines, simply a complete perspective. So if you create this same thing, you might have different approach, different reason and perspective. Everyone is different, right? So that's completely up to you as an artist, and that's completely fine because every individual has its own choices and perspective. And make sure you also readjust the topology of windows timber part to bring out natural feel of the wood. Now let's add purlins and topplates. These two not only make house look good from the aesthetic value but also plays an important engineering factor for rafters supporting on posts and locked together and intersecting walls. And I use them to achieve more stylized appeal and readjusting their topology a little bit just like other timber parts to achieve more stylized look. Also use these to hang lamps on the sides of windows in actual project. After adding purlins, I looked at timber framing and made couple more topological changes to avoid any kind of repetitions and make it completely natural in flow. Generally, for most of the time, I look for references when it comes to inspiration for stylization. So this time I kinda did my own concept art. It was completely my idea to use timber framing to make house look appealing. Now when it comes to stylize your house with timber, as an artist you are still bound to engineering side of the objects like real world. You can play with the shape and size for stylization, but not with the purpose with respect to our world and forces of universe it comes in contact with. For example, you can add square windows, round windows, arch windows or any kind of windows, but their purpose and functionality should be same. All windows should open like a door and have a glass in between them. I hope this gives you a brief idea on the bigger picture that how you can stylize any object in your scene. When modeling such objects, try to bottle down half work with reusability. You don't have to keep creating all objects every time. Just duplicate the all objects and mold them into a new shape like these timber framing posts, rafters, purlins I am using in this house. You can also create 4 different looks of one timber log by duplicating and rotating them on 90 degrees if they are in a square shape. This will help you to reduce the time to readjusting the topology again and again. Also be mindful of memory you are buying from your machine. More instances means less amount of object data properties computer has to deal with, and you will have more room to add more objects into your scene. However, if you are making necessary topological changes, then you know the drill. Make duplicates and use wherever you want to use them in the scene. Now time to add most important part in the timber framing, the knee bracing. Create a knee brace and instant it all over under the purlins and conical roof. Knee braces simply provides rigidity to house structure to counteract different types of forces acting laterally on the house structure. Now time to create the door of the house. First, simply get a plane in the shape of an arch and then create a wooden boards of door out of it. Then again, as previous timber part, add loop cuts and create unevenness in the shape. Now let's create some doorsteps with stone tiles. Simply use a cube and scale it in a rectangular shape and then simply create instances of it. Create double and triple layers and place them as stair steps. Then select all tiles and randomize them to give more natural and little bit disoriented appeal. Now randomizing tiles can be little bit harder with the randomize tool, so you have to place couple of tiles manually to avoid any kind of intersection between tiles, which might not look so good in the end, so keep a close eye on that. Also added a medieval style door handle, just created a plane, used extrude and bridge faces and added metallic nails with a circular shape handle. Now time to create the most important part of the house, the roof. There are thousands of ideas to create stylized roof, but which one you should choose and how you gonna stylize it, that completely depends on artistic choice and decision you have in mind. Things can go crazy and weird, might work, might not, so it is completely up to you that how exactly you're gonna get through this. Your approach towards roof stylization with composition and lighting really gonna affect the entire look of the scene. And that is why if you are a beginner, I suggest to experiment a lot of shapes. If you feel comfortable, then try to draw first on the paper to save your time. And if you are comfortable with the drawing, then definitely try to draw on the paper first. And it will definitely help you to save a lot more time than experimenting a lot or trying to make things work around. However, it's gonna take some time and effort to get it right. And with the time, you will start to develop a keen sense as an artist to imagine things directly as you want them to be. But if you don't know how to get it right, then simply experiment with new styles. As for this art, I chose my own new style of roof boards to create stylized art, and it really looks awesome with the entire composition I had in mind. I also duplicated boards on all over the parts of the roof where they were required, and adjusted scale and size and randomized their placement a little bit. Now time to create roof windows. These windows really brings out the very best in the medieval house and also make it feel more structurally profound and aesthetic. Now time to add most appealing part in the medieval house, the ridges of the roof. Now they're gonna reflect the stylization of house with their shapes. Simply add loop cuts and lower the center of ridge using proportional editing tool. Also added metallic rings at equal span in an entire ridge, then duplicated them all over the other roofs and they instantly change the entire look of the house. Also duplicate entire roof window onto the cylindrical section of the house but on the wall side, and positioning the window angle also depends on the composition or perspective you have in mind, so that's completely up to you as an artist. Now time to create tiles for conical roof. Create tile from cube and make it a bit round on edges. Duplicate all around the roof and then simply duplicating and moving them up, and then keep duplicating to the top. Then add another duplicates layer over first tiles layer and then setting them up as they should look good both aesthetically and in a stylized appeal. Also created another small roof for small show up beside the house. Now time to add bumps in the wooden boards which we left untouched previously. Just like all the timber parts, making them look uneven gonna help us to achieve perfect stylized appeal to viewers' eye. And finally, add a nameplate on conical roof, bend the metallic part just a little bit to give a stylized tone. And finally, entire house worked out pretty well in the end. Refined couple of timber parts more to get the topological flow more refined and better in the sense of aestheticness. And finally, use this house in a stylized medieval house project. Added a lot more stuff in the scene like lamps, kids, cat, clouds with my own creative textures and lighting setup. And in the end, entire hard work and patience just paid off.
So that's it for today's video. If you guys learned something from this tutorial, please leave a thumbs up and share with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any upcoming future videos. If you have something to say or you want to ask a question, please let me know in the comment section. I will get to that as soon as I possibly can. So thanks again for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.